Hey folks, welcome back to another review, and this time it is Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins, which is the Blu-ray from Arrow Video, graciously given to me by Till from Germany. I really thank him so much. I only had this film on DVD, the shitty, I think it was like full screen DVD, so to see this in widescreen and HD looks beautiful, best I've seen the film look. It does have the ability to flip the cover, so that's the theatrical poster. I do enjoy this cover though. I think that's a cool, simple but effective cover. It does have a little booklet. It has some features, which I'll get to at the end of the video. Because I sort of want to talk about Remo Williams, the film itself, at first. This came out in 1985, came out in October, and Orion Pictures, who financed this, I think they wanted this to be the next James Bond, really. Sort of a blue-collar James Bond, that type of thing. And it was based on a series of books called The Destroyer, which I've never read the Destroyer books. In fact, I didn't know anyone who knew what the fuck the Destroyer was. To this day, I barely know people who's like, what the fuck is the Destroyer? Are they still out? Or do they still make those books? I mean, I think there's a little history on those books in this booklet that do talk a little bit about those books. And the Sananju martial art that was made up and everything of that nature. I know there's been talks of doing those books into a movie, which I have a feeling if they did, it'd be more like the Bourne films, which I'm not a fan. I easily like this more than any of the Bourne films. I haven't seen the one with Jeremy Renner, to be fair, but the ones with Matt Damon, I'll take Remo over Bourne. More like bored or boring or boring shit. With, hey, I can't understand what the fuck's going on, so let's shake the fucking camera and have some schizophrenic editing. At least here I understand what's going on. But yeah, this came out in October 1985 and it bombed. It bombed badly. It debuted at like number 4 at the box office with like 3 million in its opening weekend and only made a total of about $14 million. And that's because the film that was number 1 that weekend, Commando. And 1985, yeah, I remember, that was the year Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Commando. And then a year later, you had films like Aliens. These were the kind of action films that were coming out at that time. R-rated, intense action films. People like, you really call Commando intense? It's funny on purpose, but he's also cutting people's heads off and throwing saw blades and scalping people. More intense than this. And yeah, I would put all those movies above Remo Williams, but that does not negate the fact that I grew up with this movie and still think this is a very solid, fun film. And it's sad this film bombed, because I would love to have seen a sequel. You know, people ask me what films I would like to see a sequel to, or I wish would have been made, and at times it's hard to think on the spot. But like, okay, yeah, Cobra 2, yeah, this would be one of them. I wish there was a Remo Williams 2 that came out in, say, this was 85, so say 87. Or a trilogy. One in 85, one in 87, one in 89. I would love to have seen a Remo Williams trilogy with Fred Ward and Joel Grey as Remo and Chun. I think these two worked very well together. They had great chemistry. You drive like a monkey in heat. The dialogue is fun between them. Fred Ward, I've always enjoyed. I really enjoy him in Tremors. Even The Right Stuff. Even bit roles that he has, like Chain Reaction. I think he's a great actor, very underrated. I haven't seen all of his films. He did one called Cast a Deadly Spell, which I haven't seen, and there's a few others. But Fred Ward doesn't get a lot of big roles anymore. But this was sort of his hopeful breakout role, and it didn't pan out, sadly. I don't know, I don't know if that's why he doesn't do interviews for anything. I don't know, maybe it was one of those scenes where he's sad that this didn't work out. I don't know. But the plot is fairly simple. Remo, that wasn't his real name. He's a cop. He beats up these guys. who trying to fuck with him. These thugs gets in his cop car. His cop car gets pushed to the river, and his death is faked so that his face is messed with. They change his face. They change his name to Remo Williams, and he's going to be part of this new organization, which is like Wilford Brimley, this other guy, and Remo. And then they have him train with this guy of Master Sinanju called Chiun, Joel Grey, which I know nowadays this would not fly if he had a white guy playing. But at the same time, I gotta admit, he does a really good job. I think he was even nominated for a Golden Globe. And you can say how much is not PC. If it worked, it worked. And I thought he did a great job. I don't think it was a man in blackface, meaning that it was meant to make fun of a culture or to talk shit about culture or to be offensive. I thought he did a really wonderful job. And in fact, I did not know this was a white guy until a decade later. I thought he really was a Korean guy. Carl Fullerton, who was nominated for an Oscar for his makeup, and Joel Grey, I thought that was really who he was. Granted, I'm like, Joel Grey, okay, he's Korean, okay. Korean named Joel Grey. I'll buy it. But I thought he did a great job, and he had wonderful chemistry with Fred Ward. You also have, like I said, Wilford Brimley, you had Kate Mulgrew, who would later be Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager. You have a beautiful score by Craig Safan, who had done the last Starfighter score. Love that movie, love that score. This is another great score that love the theme to this. You know, these are the score fits the film very well. I love the theme to Remo. When the action scenes are there, I enjoy them. I especially like the chase around the Statue of Liberty. And this was a time in America when there's this cage around the Statue of Liberty because it was being renovated, and to be able to shoot on the actual real Statue of Liberty, I don't think you could do that now, especially in the current climate, but back then it was even rare. And you actually have a shot of Fred Ward standing on top of the Statue of Liberty in this great wide shot with that music playing, and then being chased around the Statue of Liberty by these assholes who have been hired to throw him off. And there's some good stunt work and some really enjoy that sequence. And if I had to be honest, is this the most action-packed film when you compare it to Commando and Rambo 2 at the time, or a year later Aliens, or if you compare it to James Bond films? No. Which maybe that's one of the reasons why critics didn't care for it and audiences didn't really go see it. Because if you look at the finale of this, what's the finale? You're in a forest. Fred Ward runs through artillery. He gets on a tree that is now hovered on the ground. He unhooks it, falls down with all these other lumber, which falls into the bad guy's Jeep, flips that over. He goes over, dodges bullets before Neo did it. Remo did it. Fucks up the main bad guy. Burns the Jeep. It blows up. There's your big action finale. Then you compare it to Commando, where he blew up like the entire island, all those like 50 buildings, and then you look at Rambo 2, where he blew up the whole country of Vietnam. And then you look at James Bond, how big their finales can get. It's kind of quaint in comparison. So maybe back then people were disappointed, like, really, that's it? But I guess I never had that expectation, so I always enjoyed it for what it was. And yeah, Remo Williams, he's a cop who beats up these thugs, gets the After he beats him up, he goes back to his cop car. The cop car gets pushed into the river. He wakes up with a new face, a new name, part of this organization with Wilford, Brimley, and this other guy. I like when the other guy goes, "We don't practice the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not get away with it." He's meant to train with Chun, and you see Chun dodging bullets. And I thought Joel Grey did a wonderful job. He was really funny. His character liked to watch soap operas, always talked shit about Fred Ward's character, whether it be "you move like a pregnant yak," or when Fred Ward is hanging from the carousel and he goes, "Jesus," and then Chun goes, "Concentrate. This is no time for prayer." I think they worked very well together. I do. One of the best things about the movie is their chemistry with each other. You really get the feeling that they enjoyed each other's company. I mean, the story of the bad guys, it's there. They something to do with this weapons program and where is the money going to, and how misappropriation of funds, and how they will do stuff for cheap. So at one point there's this train exercise, someone shoots a gun, it jams and blows up in the guy's face. So by making that stuff cheap, they can use the money for other stuff. Kate Mulgrew is part of the military. She's trying to look into it. I think she's a captain or something. Or maybe they do. No, I'm just thinking that because Captain Janeway, but wrong thing. But she's looking into the bad guys too. And while all that's going on, a good chunk of the film is Chun training Remo, teach him to breathe while standing on his stomach, have him walk around the ledge of a building. Fear is just a feeling. You feel hungry. You feel tired. Fear can't kill you. And then Fred Ward looks down at the building, has him walk around the ledge of the building, fingerboard. Well, how do I hang it up? And then Chun just goes, find a nail. This is one moment that is impressive physically, where you have this training regiment where Fred Ward has to jump from one thing to another, and then the stuntman's doing this nice stuff, but sadly nowadays, when you see that training sequence with all the stuff set up where he's going higher and higher, when you get to the moment where his back is facing us and he's going this way, you can see the wires up here. Like when his back and he's facing this way, right here you see wires. You can see the wires. So that sucks. So, when you watch that scene, you see that, you go, oh shit, well, I didn't notice that when I was a kid, but when I watch, I'm like, oh fuck, man. I'm like, maybe for the film, couldn't you, like for the Blu-ray release, maybe they could have like messed with the image to cut that part off. But then maybe people would complain, you messed with the image. I'm like, but that I can understand because you're fixing a mistake. See, on a side note, all this stuff where, like George Lucas, when he altered the original Star Wars for no good reason, fix the mistakes. For example, when Raiders of the Lost Ark, when that came out on Blu-ray, remember Raiders of the Lost Ark, you had the scene where you see all the reflection when the Cobra was at him, you saw a reflection of Harrison's face. They took that reflection out. I wish someone would like create something and be like, let's fix all the mistakes that people find on these IMDb stuff. Let's fix them all. And fix them all digitally. See, that's a way to use digital in an efficient manner to fix your mistakes. If you see a wire, take the wire out. If you see that, take that bit out. I don't think people would complain about that. Or I don't think people should complain about that, but that's just a little side note. But there is some really good stunt work when the stuntman's hanging from this Wonder Wheel carousel and then getting on top and narrowly avoiding these other parts of the carousel. Then him and Chun are on this boardwalk, and William Hickey, the old guy from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, he was in the original Puppet Master, and He's been in a lot of other stuff too, William Hickey. And Sean wins this bid Pink Panther, and he tells Remo, remember, he's mine. I want him, he's mine. So that's why I think the humor works well between the two. And training when dodging bullets. And then Sean's like, you forgot the rice. And then Fred Ward goes, maybe we can grow some. And Sean's like, yeah, maybe to do blah, 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 instead of your poor attempt at humor. Or Remo being frustrated and wanting to go out, and hey, is there anything with Sanandra about sex? It's like, yeah, well, there's a lesson 36, and you tap the wrist with a heartbeat, and Remo's like, then what? Then you put the rice in the bowl and we eat. And I'm not doing the dialogue justice. That's why you see the film, to see the dialogue done justice. Patrick Kilpatrick, who is the Sandman in Death Warrant with Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's been the bad guy in a lot of stuff. He's a bad guy here with a diamond in his tooth. And even Fred Ward goes, who's your dentist? Tiffany's? And I like the accuracy in the Statue of Liberty. Under, these guys trying to kill him, and he's going from A to B and dodging them. And Remo's not the guy who just kills anybody. Even these guys, granted, I think they deserve it, but he doesn't kill them. He just beats the shit out of them. Gets out of there. You have a little bit of a dramatic moment where Wilford, Brimley, and the other guy tell him that if they get found out, they're going to be killed. And then, Wilford Brimley will take the suicide pill, and how you'll get taken care of by Chun. And then Fred Ward asks, would you do it? And then Sean goes, I wouldn't want to, but if they told me to, I would have to. And that's when Fred Ward leaves. And a bunch of other stuff happened. I'm not going to go into every single detail in the film, because either people have seen this, or I think people should give it a watch. But I enjoy the scene when Fred Ward and Keith Mulgrew are stuck, and he uses the guy's tooth to scratch the window, the glass, and then jump through it. And then when the guy puts on his gas mask, Fred Ward, gouges the guy's eyes out. I thought that was really cool. The finale, while it's not as grandiose as a lot of James Bond movies or movies of that year, Commando, Rambo 2, I still found it entertaining. Some nice stunt work of the guy hanging off so high from the ground on the tree. Going through all the artillery when all these bombs are exploding. Before there's this truck crash with him, Chun, who's there, and Keith Mulgrew. And Fred Ward, Keith Mulgrew get out, but Chun doesn't. When he gets to him, he sees Chun with the door handles. Like, in Korea, door handles do not break. And Fred Ward is asking if he's okay, and he's like, yes, I'm okay, my son. And then Fred Ward goes, what do you call me? I said, I called you a clumsy oaf who drive like a monkey in heat. And I thought this was a really nice moment. This is the heart of the movie. This is the main reason why I enjoy this film so much. As Fred Ward is running and then turns around and calls him little father and smiles and runs away. And Chun doesn't do anything, but then when Fred Ward leaves, Chun has this sort of nice little smile. So it has a good heart to it with that friendship. Then all that stuff happens. He's dodging bullets like he's Neo, before Neo. Fucks up the bad guy. Who are you? Remo Williams. Burns up the place, or the Jeep. Gets there on the boat with K. Mulgrew. Chun's over here, all the military. And Chun runs on water. Because there's a fantasy element to this as well. Be able to float. Not fly, but float over the water, like he runs over the water. And he even tells Remo Williams, must run very fast. I like, he just stands on the top of the boat while Fred Ward is driving. They're driving away. He's like, Chun, you are incredible. He's like, no, I am better than that. That's what I mean. I would love to have seen, now that you got in the origin story, because that's what this is. It's an origin story of teaching them how to do stuff, teaching them how to dodge bullets, teaching them stuff of that nature. Now you got the origin part. Then with the sequel, you could go bigger, and you have maybe bigger action scenes, and you've got most of the training stuff done, and you've figured things out. Now in the sequel, you can go full force with it. But again, the film bombed, so it didn't do anything. So, couple any drawbacks. The villains are there. It's not like they're memorable villains. The villain's plot is not really the strongest part of the story. The villains are not really the most memorable villains. They're not. The action scenes maybe more plentiful or more bigger in scope for action. I mean, the biggest is the chase around the Statue of Liberty, and then the stuff with the tree at the finale. But I think people who watch that today find that a bit quaint. But it served their purpose. If you go into this for balls to wall action, I think you would be disappointed. But you know, beautiful score, great camaraderie between these two guys. Fred Ward does a wonderful job as the lead. I think he should have gone to bigger and better things. Joel Grey, I think, does a nice job with his role. Kate Mulgrew is there. I don't mind Kate Mulgrew. Kind of weird. She starts off kind of a strong female, and then by the end, she's like, "Oh wow, what are you guys?" But I didn't bother it as much. I'm sure it will other people. Some nice set pieces like the Statue of Liberty. Overall, I think this is a fun, entertaining action film with some good comedic bits, a memorable score. The Blu-ray itself, the features, honestly, I'm glad to have this more for having the movie in widescreen and HD. The movie, I mean, the features themselves are not much to run home about. You have a commentary with the producers, Larry, Larry Speedo and Judy Goldstein. There's not much to run home about. I couldn't really get through it, especially the one guy because he does a very hoarse voice, and it just wasn't really that fun to listen to. You have like you have an hour-long documentary about the '80s action films, and it's more about. It's one of those documentaries where they looked at the '80s, but they looked at the themes and the politics of the time, and they talk about Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Chuck Norris and Charles Bronson and what made them different from each other, and not really about specific movies and how this movie got made and was it a hit, was it a flop, stories on set. No, it's not that. It's more about the themes of that era of '80s films, and but then later on you had different films like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, and they're really it's scholars being going too deep on films that they shouldn't be, which I don't find that interesting. I guess maybe I'm just more practical. Maybe that's why. So, and then it was weird seeing Remo in there because it's like Rambo and Arnold. And then, oh shit, there's a Remo Blu-ray, so put Remo in there. It just seemed out of place. It's like they had this documentary, they didn't know what to do with it. Oh, we have a Blu-ray Remo since we don't do a lot of action films. So put Remo in there, in the middle of it. It just, I don't know, I wasn't really the biggest fan of it. I think they mentioned American Ninja. They do mention Sigourney Weaver and Aliens. But yeah, it's just more about the time of Radian and like saying shit that you either already know or you don't give a shit about. It's not really details on making of these films and where they hits and flops. I don't know, just wasn't for me. And then the interviews themselves are about 10, 12 minutes long. One with Joel Grey, who wasn't sure about doing the part, and then did it. He got along well with Fred Ward. People either asked him about Cabaret or this film. The guy who did the makeup just tells about how he did the makeup and how, even though he was nominated for an Oscar, he was pretty sure he wasn't going to win. Or at least maybe some people were telling him maybe he's not going to win because the film wasn't a hit. And sort of the politics of the Oscars. Interview with composer Craig Safan coming up with the score, how when the film came out it was a flop and they didn't really have any CDs or anything, but then later on some CDs were issued and reissued. Talking with people in the Korean community with what kind of musical instruments they use to help create the score, since this character is supposed to be from Korea. And then it's like, okay, it's cool that I saw them, but I didn't really find much in-depth knowledge, or they're just there. I mean, if you're buying this, which would probably be expensive if you're buying from overseas, or I know in the U.S. there's a Blu-ray from Twilight Times. It's probably don't cost you quite a penny. If you're buying this for the features, I think you're going to be disappointed. I would say only get this if you want this in HD and widescreen, and that's why I'm glad to have this. For the features, not really. I mean, you don't have an interview with Fred Ward. Maybe like a lengthy interview with someone who goes through the entire production and why the film wasn't a hit. Maybe that would have been nice. The director has passed away. So it's there, the features. It's not that impressive, honestly. So it's a bit disappointing. I'll be honest, the features are disappointing. But I like the presentation. I like that there's a booklet. I like the cover, and I like seeing the film in HD. So there's that. By the way, that's my review on Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. Which, yeah, they were really sure they don't make a sequel by making that title. Should just call it Remo Williams. I mean, actually saying The Adventure Begins, and then it's like, well, what if... I guess they were really sure, but that didn't happen. The adventure began and ended. But I still do love the movie. I think it's a fun film. So thanks for watching. Take care. And as you probably noticed, this is going to be a start of a new series of reviews where I'm going to review stuff from Till from Germany. I'm going to get to his films, and I'm going to get to like Blood of Heroes and China Strike Force, and down the road, Big Trouble in Little China, Teen Solomon's Mines, and so forth. So this is the first of a series of reviews for Till from Germany. Figure it's the least I can do since he sent me a ton of nice stuff. So thanks for watching, take care, and stay tuned for more reviews later.